I never expected her to remember my name, let alone everything else. It was just another slow Thursday evening at the laundromat. The hum of machines mixed with the quiet shuffle of feet and the soft clink of coins dropped into the change slot. Usually, I stayed tucked away in a corner, scrolling through my phone, drafting texts I never sent. But tonight, the sound of her voice pulled me out. "Hey, Liam," she said, not looking up from folding a shirt. "You're late. Twice this week." Her tone wasn't teasing, exactly. More like a quiet observation. Like she was noting a pattern, but didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I glanced up. There was something about how she stood. Casual, hands busy with the fabric, eyes flickering toward my hands as I fiddled with a loose thread on my jacket. She wore a soft smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, like she was carrying a secret I wasn't quite meant to know. "Traffic," I said, almost automatically. Then added, "Or maybe I'm just trying to avoid something." She looked at me then, really looked, like she was waiting for me to explain, but didn't want to push. There was a pause, the kind that feels like a thread stretched between two people, delicate but strong. "Same time next week?" she asked, folding the last corner of her shirt. I nodded before I could think it over. The air between us was charged with something quiet, something that wasn't quite loneliness, but not exactly hope either. Later, as I walked back to my apartment, the city lights flickered in the distance, and my thoughts paused on her. Not on what we said, but what we didn't. The way her smile softened when she thought I wasn't looking. The way the laundromat, usually just a place to kill time, felt different with her there. Back inside, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Don't let this be the last time." I stared at the screen. It wasn't hers, not exactly, but it was close enough. I folded my hands, feeling the weight of the night settle in. Maybe some things were meant to be forgotten. Or maybe they were just waiting to happen again. The next week, the laundromat smelled faintly of detergent and old coffee. She was already there when I arrived, quiet, folding clothes with that same practiced ease. "You always pick the same table," she said, nodding toward the rickety wooden one by the window. I shrugged and sat down, trying to keep my hands busy with the folded napkins I'd brought. "Do you ever think about what got you here?" she asked suddenly, eyes fixed on the slow spin of a dryer. I blinked, not sure if she meant the laundromat or life. "My dad left when I was 10, I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "Mom worked 2 jobs. I learned early how to wait." She paused, then smiled softly, like a secret unlocked. "I get that. Divorced for years. My daughter's almost your age." The weight of that hung between us, heavier than any silence before. She poured 2 cups of tea, hands trembling just slightly. I reached to steady the mug she handed me. It wasn't much, just the brush of fingertips, but it felt like an unspoken promise. I caught her glance, quick, almost shy, and cracked a joke to break the tension. For a moment, it was normal, but inside, the doubts were loud. What was this? What could it be? I don't know why that moment stayed with me. I thought later, maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. The walk home was quiet, the evening settling like a soft weight. Hands almost brushed, then didn't. She glanced away, eyes catching something across the street. A neighbor's voice called out, loud enough to startle. "Hey, you too." I froze, heart tightening. She stepped back, just a little. Not much, but enough. The space between us felt suddenly wide. The scent of her, coffee and something else, lingered. I wanted to say something. Anything. But words tangled up inside. Her fingers fiddled with the strap of her bag, quick and restless. We stopped on the sidewalk, the moment hanging like a question. Her eyes flicked up, meeting mine for a heartbeat. "Almost there," almost said. But then a door slammed somewhere, and the moment slipped away. Quiet. Unsure. Did I read it wrong? Or did it almost? The rest stayed unsaid. Full story in the link. Check the description. I never thought jealousy would feel so small. Just a glance, but it twisted something inside. We sat on that old park bench, her hands wrapped around a chipped mug, steam rising slow. I watched the way she laughed at a joke I barely heard. It hit me then, how much this mattered. Not loud, not crashing, just tight in the chest. "I don't want to lose this," I said, voice uneven. She didn't answer right away, just looked down, tracing a line on the wood. Maybe she saw it then. The fear, the guilt, like a weight finally settling. Her eyes met mine, soft but guarded. There was space for everything unspoken. I wanted to say more, but the words stalled. What happens if I don't know how to stop? And that question hung between us, waiting for an answer that might never come. The morning light felt different. Not colder, not darker, just unfamiliar. The usual warmth of her presence, the easy laughter, the shared silence on that cracked park bench had slipped away overnight. It started small. A delayed text, a missing good morning. Then the subtle changes, averted eyes, shorter replies, canceled plans with no explanation. She pulled back like the tide retreating, leaving me stranded on the shore. I tried to catch her before the distance grew too wide. At the cafe where she always ordered black coffee, her favorite, I waited. The barista asked if I wanted the usual. It felt like a test. But she never came. Days passed. I showed up less, too, my routine unraveling without her. Then the truth slipped out, not in words she spoke, but in a glance I caught, a name whispered in passing. Alex. Someone from her past, maybe more than just a name. An ex? A child? Something heavy, a piece of her life she hadn't shared. It explained the silence, the sudden coldness. Hope flickered. What if she needed space? What if this was her way of sorting it all out? But with hope came confusion, then the sharp sting of withdrawal. I found myself staring at my phone, thumbs hovering over unsent messages, crafting words that felt both too much and not enough. Nights blurred into mornings. The empty seat beside me at the park bench a constant reminder. Friends asked if everything was okay. I lied, said I didn't want to talk. Truth was, I didn't know what to say. How to fix a story paused mid-sentence. I remember the last message typed, but never sent. It was simple. I'm here when you're ready. A line holding both patience and pain. Yet I never pressed send. Now, the wait isn't heartbreak. It's the space between moments, the silence that stretches too long. It's life on pause, as if everything is waiting for a missing word, a final line that might never come. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. The porch light flickered softly as the evening settled in, casting long shadows across the worn wooden boards. She stood there, quiet, hands loosely folded in front, eyes searching. The silence stretched between us, not heavy, but charged, like the calm before a storm that might never come. I shifted on my feet, fingers curling and uncurling, unsure whether to speak or step back into the safety of silence. The words tangled inside. Unspoken confessions, apologies I wasn't sure she wanted, fears I barely understood myself. It wasn't about grand declarations. It was the weight of everything left unsaid. Her glance dropped for a moment, then met mine again. No judgment there, just something raw, tentative hope maybe, or the quiet acceptance of risk. I never meant to. The sentence stopped before it left my lips. It was too much and not enough. She nodded slightly, a small gesture that said she understood without needing to hear it. I took a step closer, the space between us shrinking but still cautious, like we were balancing on a wire stretched too tight. Her hand lifted, fingers brushing against mine. Not quite a hold, but more than a touch. The moment stretched, fragile and fragile again. Okay, she said, voice low and steady. Not a promise or a plea, just a word. A word that held everything in its simplicity. I didn't say more. Didn't need to. The quiet connection, the mutual surrender to uncertainty, said enough. Sometimes, the hardest truths are the ones whispered between heartbeats. The mornings still start the same way. 8:47 a.m., black coffee steaming beside the open window, the soft clink of the old spoon against the ceramic cup. The bench at the park, worn but steady, waits like it always has, and sometimes, so do we. The silence between us now isn't empty. It's the kind that fills the spaces where words once stumbled. There's no need to say much. Shared glances over tea, hands finding each other naturally, a quiet understanding that grew slowly, without fanfare. Life hasn't smoothed all the edges. There are days when doubts creep back, and routines shift without warning. But those moments don't undo what's built. Something steady and warm that neither rushed nor forced. Sometimes, when the afternoon light slants just right, the memory flickers, a joke half shared, a glance held a little too long, the bench where everything felt possible and fragile all at once. Those moments aren't gone. They're woven into the quiet fabric of now. And maybe that's what it means to end, not with fireworks or grand declarations, but with the simple peace of knowing this. Here, in the ordinary, in the everyday, the story continues. Sometimes, love is just two people sitting side by side, understanding without saying a word. And, if you want to see how this quietly unfolds, check out the full story in the link below.